Welcome to the Disrupting Obesity podcast. I'm Charlotte Skanes, and I'll be sharing ways to regain control over your body and lose an extreme amount of weight naturally. Being fat is about so much more than just the food. It's about your relationship with food. That means that dealing with your weight is about more than just the food, too. You have to change that relationship. You have to start disrupting obesity. I know it might feel early, but we're already into the last quarter, and it's never too early to start mentally preparing for the holidays. The last quarter is a thing. It's a big thing. There's a whole mindset that goes along with the last 3 months of the year. Your self-talk shifts. We give ourselves a break from the constant nagging to do something about our weight, and it shifts to enthusiasm about what we're going to do in January. And yeah, the planning is exciting, but I think the part that's even more exhilarating, whether we're willing to admit to it or not, is the whole, hooray, January's coming. I'm going to lose so much weight. It's the perfect time to start. It's going to be amazing. Even more exciting than all of that is the permission slip you just gave yourself to say screw it and eat your way through the nearly back-to-back holidays and events that are coming up over the next couple of months. I think it's awesome that you're so pumped for the new year, but I have questions. How many years has that plan worked for you? How much more weight do you want to have to take off? Why are you sabotaging yourself like this? The last quarter comes every year. Odds are good that even if you start right now or you're already midstream, you've probably got at least one more to get through before you get to your goal weight. So how many more last quarters do you want to have to spend worrying about your weight? We can break those questions down. I can't promise it'll be pleasant, but I think it's probably a good idea. I don't think we should gloss over them. I mean, okay, the first one was a little bit rough. I'm not going to lie. And I did that on purpose, not to be mean, but to get you thinking, because how many years has the plan to wait until New Year's and really take your best swing at it? How many years has that worked out? Now, I know I have flamingos who are maintaining, who are listening to this, and we've got midstream flamingos and some brand new baby flamingos, the flamingettes. So this super fun rhetorical question doesn't apply to everybody, but if you're in those last two groups, the midstream and the baby flamingos, I might be looking at you. You know it hasn't worked. Why do you think this time is going to be different? Is it going to be different because you're going to handle the last quarter differently than you usually do? But that doesn't really sound like a plan. It sounds like the plan is to take that free pass and binge your way from Thanksgiving to the final bell tolling at midnight. And let's be real, are you actually going to be able to start on the 1st of January? Because there are all those leftovers. And it is technically a holiday too. You can wait until the 2nd. But the 3rd of January is a Friday this coming year. So you might as well just wait until the Monday. That's the 6th. That's a great day to start. Except what's actually happened is that you're just doing what you do, postponing and postponing. And the next thing you know, it's Valentine's Day and you'll start right after that. But things keep coming up. And now you're, recentering and getting focused on getting into your summer body. And then the next thing you know, you're listening to next year's lecture on the last quarter and you're kicking yourself because this year's didn't work. So let's get back to those questions. How much more weight do you want to have to take off? And yeah, I know that one sucks too, but awareness is your friend here. How much weight did you gain last year over the holidays? What do you think the odds are that you're going to make it through this one with the scale unscathed? I know this is just a bunch more questions, but I feel like they're doing the heavy lifting for me here. The last thing you want to do is step on that scale on the 6th of January to get your starting weight and see a higher number than the one you were expecting. It can be really discouraging. It can bring up all your fears and doubts, your insecurities, and your terror that you won't be able to get it off. It can make you feel sad and defeated. That's not really the ideal headspace to be in when you're trying to get started. It's a headspace that stops you from getting started. But there's the concrete side here too, right? Yeah, it's undeniably a kick to the slacks to start out with an extra 5 or 10 pounds to have to lose from a mindset perspective. But we're talking weeks that you just added to your overall time. Maybe that's a good way to think about this. It might actually be the best way to think about this. Think about it in terms of the time that you're going to have to spend getting it off and not in the number of pounds. So instead of being like, oh, it's only 9 pounds, I'll just take it off. Think of it in terms of if I gain 9 pounds, it's going to take me a good 6 weeks to lose it, at least. I'll be adding a month and a half minimum to how long it's going to take me to get to my goal weight. Also, that I can have one last hurrah this holiday season. It's just another way to frame your perspective. Why are you sabotaging yourself like this? Was our next question. And I think it's a damn good one, especially in the light of the first two questions. What's at the heart of why you're cutting off your nose to spite your face here? You're setting yourself up to fail. So is it that you don't feel worthy of success with your weight? What's really going on? Because you're sabotaging yourself for a reason. You know your patterns. The last question I asked was, how many more last quarters do you want to spend worrying about your weight? It's a fair question too. And I know that the answer is none. You want this to be over and done with. I'm on board with that too. So let's take on this last quarter differently than you have before. Today's episode and next week's episode are all about giving you tools to help you get through this year's last quarter. Let's change the patterns and do everything we can to set you up for as much success as possible during these last months and into the new year. Imagine how good it would feel going into New Year's Day without all the usual pressure. It won't all hinge on how well you can pull off this massive life change on a fairly arbitrary date. The last quarter is a gauntlet of pain when you're trying to lose weight. I'm in Canada and we get a jump start up here because our Thanksgiving is the second Monday of October and we do the whole turkey thing too. So we've already had an icebreaker before Halloween hits with the onslaught of candy. Now, the beautiful thing about Halloween is all of those marvelous pre-portioned bags of goodness. You know exactly what you're getting. But it's not like it was when I was a kid, right? And this stuff only came out once a year. We have access to all of the candy all of the year, right? In Canada, we kind of get a break after Halloween until the December holidays start up. But I know things are more compact in the States with your Thanksgiving in November, and that can be tough. The Halloween candy tends to linger. And I'm not sure what's worse, right? When it feels like it sticks around forever or when it just seems to disappear way too fast. But it all just feels like a bit of a barrage this time of year, right? On the one hand, it's all super exciting because we wait all year for some of this holiday food and for the permission we give ourselves to eat those foods. On the other hand, we dread them because of those things and because it's so challenging and it can all feel so overwhelming. I want to cut through some of the overwhelm. That's why I'm taking my time and I'm covering this one over 2 episodes. This week, I've got just a real mix of really concrete tips that you can just implement. And then I've got a group of more abstract mindset stuff that I want to put on your radar. We're going to start with a couple of the concrete ones, the really concrete ones. And the first one up is something I call intentional grazing. One of my biggest struggles at the holidays is the constant barrage of food. My favorite kinds of foods, just platters of hors d'oeuvres and cheeses and meats and sweets and just all the good stuff, right? There are so many things to choose from, and I've waited all year, and I love grazing. I love it. A little bit here, a little bit there, some now, some later, but the calories just keep adding up. So you need to be intentional about it. Pick and choose. Don't eat the parts you don't like. Save those calories for something else. I thought about this one for a while, but the first and the best example that comes to mind for me is sausage rolls, right? I can only eat so much puff pastry, but I can eat sausage all day. And I've always felt like the ratio is wrong with those. So I pull most of the pastry off the top. And instead of eating it first, just to get it out of the way like I used to, I don't eat it at all. Now, I hear you, Gladys. I know it's wasteful. Yeah. Do you want to know what's more wasteful? All of the other food that I was eating when I was 200 pounds overweight. I mean, sure, it wasn't going into the garbage, but I absolutely didn't need it. When you get right down to it, my gluttony was wasteful. It was unnecessary eating. And I was the one doing it, so I can own it however I want. So, yeah, it's wasteful to pull the top off my sausage rolls and not eat them. I know that, but it's the lesser of evils. And you better be sitting down, Glads, because I got some shockers for you. I don't eat pie crust, even on mini pies. I cut the crusts off my sandwiches. I even pull some of the blanket off my poor little piggies. Mhm. It was more important to me to get my weight under control than it was to not feel judged for food waste by myself as much as by others. I give to the food bank. There are ways that you can morally compensate for this one, but the truth is you don't have to. Losing weight can involve food waste. I'm sorry. I'm in no way advocating this as a general practice. I'm saying specifically that it's something you need to loosen the reins on just a tad while you get your own weight under control. Be intentional with what you eat. Think about your choices and think about what you do choose to eat. One of the biggest safety nets with this one is to be as present with what you're eating as you can. Pay attention to it. Give the food the attention it deserves. Pay attention to what you're eating right now instead of focusing on the next thing that you want to eat. That's really key this time of year. I mean, it's always important, but especially now. The holidays are all about the next thing you get to eat, not this year. This year, you're going to pay the most attention to what you're eating right now. The more present you are, the more satisfied you feel. So it's fine to graze at the holidays, but be intentional about it. Think about it. Make conscious choices instead of impulsive ones. The second thing I'm suggesting for you to get through the last quarter is to have a little so you don't have a lot. I'll start by saying that maybe this one doesn't work for everyone. There are also people who are convinced that it won't work for them, but they haven't really given it a fair shake, or they're not willing to persist with it long enough to make the mindset switch. It can feel like once you take a little, you can't stop yourself. I get that because I felt that way too. And that's the number one pushback I get with this. Once I start, I can't stop. If I have even a little bit, I can't stop thinking about it. But if you don't practice, how are you going to get better at it? And what's the alternative? I do get this. There are foods that I don't buy because I know I'll eat it all. But today, we're talking about the holidays specifically. If you don't eat the things that you want to eat, it gets more and more likely that you're going to get desperate and go off on a food bender anyway. Being present, like we were talking about just a minute ago, is a great way to make it seem like more, to make a little seem like more. If you're standing there with a plate in your hand at the office party and you're just mindlessly munching away while you're chatting, you're way more likely to overeat because you're not paying attention to what you're eating. And these are foods, holiday foods in particular, they have a decent payout when it comes to your brain's chemical reactions, right? So you're going to be inclined to want to grab some more because what you can remember of the sausage rolls you ate while you were talking to Jim and Pam was lovely, but you want more. You need to pay attention to the sausage rolls the first time and start with one. See what happens. Maybe you decide you'd rather have something else instead. Start small and you're less likely to back yourself into a corner where you took three, but you realize you don't actually need the third one, but you feel like a jerk because you took it. So now you're just going to eat it up real quick and then you can put your plate down because you just don't want to waste it. Here's the thing though. Part of you wants to eat it. Taking three is a self-sabotage play because you know that you're going to feel guilty about wasting it. So you've backed yourself into a corner and made a decision before you have all the information. The truth is, you don't know if you're actually going to want all three until you've had at least one of them. And what if they bring something else out that you decide you want to try? The only option you're leaving yourself is eating more food. Take one, start small. Remind yourself that you can always get more. And that's all very concrete physical stuff, but there's a whole abstract mindset side to all of this too. Having a little can help stop binges. I know for a bunch of you that sounds really counterintuitive. I know it feels like having any chocolate is going to mean that you keep craving it until you eat all the chocolate. How is that any different from telling yourself you're not going to have any chocolate at all? And how well has that plan worked before? Both of those roads can end in cocoa catastrophe. But what happens if you choose the road with no planned chocolate at all? You're abstaining this year. Okay, fine. But then you're given your favorites. Or chocolate mousse was the only dessert that was being served at the office holiday festivus, and you do end up having some. Your whole mindset has been centered around not having any chocolate at all, and you've been telling yourself that once you do, you'll lose control and end up on a chocolatey bender. You've done nothing but tell yourself that you can't handle it. I'm sorry, but you're full of shit. And you're sabotaging yourself. You can handle it. It's possible, even for you. And the longer and louder you keep telling yourself you can't, the longer it's going to take you to figure it out. You can. Trying is doing. Even if you fail, even if you have too much chocolate, you can. And it's going to start in your head. Now, we're going to talk about that a whole bunch in tip number 3. Know you're going to be triggered. The last quarter is a trigger palooza. Every time you turn around, something else is popping up to set you off. And it's one thing if you're surprised by it, but I'm here to ruin that for you. You're going to be triggered this holiday season. It's going to happen. You can tell yourself all day that this year is going to be different. You're not going to get set off or swept up in all the usual holiday feelings and emotions or the eating that comes with both. Unless Uncle Morty had a personality transplant, the odds are pretty good that he's going to make the same comments this year that he usually does. We all know how much fun no-filter coworkers can be when you throw some booze at them, and those are just people triggers. Then there are all the sensory triggers. Good luck with the smells. The holidays are so tied to memory. Well, guess what memories do? If you said trigger the shit out of us, you would be totally right. They trigger eating too. Holidays can be linked to trauma. There's just so much stuff happening and so much being brought up. And there's the conditioning, right? We've been conditioned that the holidays are for overindulgence. They're for treats. It's a bad idea to go into the holidays with blinders on. You can't change what you can't see. You definitely can't do it if you're refusing to see it. I'm not saying go into the holidays all doom and gloom. I'm saying go into it aware that the choices you're making with food might be impacted by the triggers that you're dealing with. That might help you not take 3 sausage rolls. Awareness is going to slow you down because you'll know to take a breath and question what you're doing. The holidays move fast enough. When you know you're going to be set off, it's important to try and slow yourself down. I think awareness feels safer too. Being blindsided isn't fun. It makes things worse. It makes feelings that are big enough on their own even bigger. It's okay to be triggered. You can learn to manage it. One of the ways I like to manage it is tip number 4. Incentivize yourself. I know the holidays are already filled with treats, but I am strongly suggesting that you offer yourself some more, but a different kind. Now, I talked about incentives back in episode 72. We'll link it for you, but that was when I was going into ways to keep yourself going when you're losing weight. This is a similar thing, but you can get super specific when it comes to the holidays. Now that you've got an idea of the way you're likely to be triggered, you can incentivize those individual triggers specifically. Make it through a visit with Uncle Mort, and you get to come home to a new audiobook. Survive the office Christmas party day, and it's got to be the whole day, because it's one thing to make it through the event. It's something else entirely to make it through the aftermath when you get home and you're finally on your own and you can eat all the feelings that you want to. Yeah, you got to make it through that part too. And I'm suggesting that you have a super indulgent bath, or pick out a new pair of pants, or, and I don't know how this one's going to go over. Okay, I'm saying it. I'll deal with the emails later. Okay. But let's say that you have a specific food trigger, okay? Something that you always go overboard on it at the holidays. What if this year, if you don't overindulge in it, okay, when you get home, you've got something else that you want to eat waiting for you, okay? Not having the usual triple helping of cream of whatever mousse pie saved you a boatload of calories. So why not have a lower calorie, something delicious waiting for you when you get home? There's lots of suggestions for those in my cookbook too, by the way, just saying. Seriously, though, don't shy away from setting yourself up for success with this. If you sit down and think about it, you've probably got a pretty good idea about some things that might set you off this year. Scenarios, people, foods, memories, emotions that you know come up every year. Grief is a biggie. So is joy. But I feel like that happens a lot when you're grieving. Those two things can be connected. There's nothing wrong with finding other ways to reward yourself. But the mindset flip is that an incentive is all about the planning, right? You thought it through first. And that's kind of a big deal. Going into a situation you know is going to be challenging when it comes to the people, the food, whatever, the things that set you off. When you go into it knowing that you've got a carrot dangling in front of your face, it stops just being about the carrot, right? The reward that you're going to give yourself for making those better choices. It's about the fact that you have a plan in the first place. You did something to interrupt your usual pattern. That's huge, and it takes courage. Doing things that take courage helps build your confidence, and it helps to keep you going. It also helps you to make better choices. So don't be shy about incentivizing your way through this holiday gauntlet of pain. It's a far better strategy than your usual plan. The next strategy I want you to take a look at is number 5 today. Set yourself up for success at home. Leaving the festivities and then coming home to nothing but less than great choices isn't the best position to put yourself in. Not setting yourself up for success. You know you're going to get all kinds of treats and fun things to eat when you're out. Why not have some nice broth-based soups ready to go for when you get home? Some of your favorite veggies and fruit cut up and ready to go. The easier it is to eat, the more likely you are to eat it. Here's a slightly off-topic tip that might not make everybody happy. Regift as much of the food that you're given as you possibly can. All that Christmas stocking chocolate and candy, take it as a hostess gift to wherever you're going for dinner. Give it to a waitress if you're going to a restaurant. That could totally make somebody's day. Give it out as door prizes if you're the one doing the hosting. Give it away. Get rid of it. How many boxes of Lindor and pot of gold do you need? The short answer here is 0. 0. And yeah, you can still eat whatever you want, but you and I both know that somebody is going to have chocolates out over the holidays. Your dentist probably puts the damn stuff out. So yeah, it's nice that somebody gave it to you. The thought really counts. Although depending on your situation and who gave it to you, I might have some questions. But sabotage is a whole other conversation, and it's a huge thing over the holidays in particular. I'm looking at my podcast schedule for the upcoming episodes, and I'm wondering if I'm going to have room after this series finishes and before Christmas to do a holiday sabotage episode, because once I started writing this, I was like, wait a minute. And I did. I sorted that out. So next week, we've got 9 more ways to get through the holidays, because there was a 0% chance that I could do all of this in one episode. Then we've got a special episode that I promised that I would do while I was doing the Q&A in the webinar last month. And if you missed that, you can still watch the replay. You can also still have the worksheets that I developed for it, and it's all still free. We'll link that in the notes for you too. But while I was midstream, live stream, answering the questions that were coming in during the webinar, I realized that I wasn't going to have enough time to get to everybody or to give each question as much time as I'd like. So I thought it would be a good idea to do a special podcast episode so that I could. And then I just said it out loud just because the thought popped into my head, and that sometimes can be a bit of a problem for me. I had somebody recently compliment me on my restraint, and I thought they were joking. But I did. I said that I was going to do this, and I still think that it's a very good idea. So that's going to be episode 77. 78 is a regularly scheduled Ask Whatever, and I've got a feeling that it's probably going to be spillover from the special Q&A episode. But episode 79 or episode 80, I promise, is going to be all about holiday sabotage specifically. So I'm for sure not going to go into this today. Plus, I'd get sidetracked, and I think I'd probably end up talking for like the next 2 hours. But yeah, people's motives can get a little bit suspicious in the last quarter. So I'm for sure not going into this today, but yeah, people's motives can get a little bit suspicious in the last quarter. But let's go back to giving the stuff away. Give it away. Take it to work, take it to church, take it to the local nursing home. I don't give a shit who you give it to. It really doesn't matter. Give it away. And I know some of you just can't. Fine, you can. But here's an alternative. Freeze it. Chocolate freezes very well. Do you know who would likely, I think, really appreciate chocolate? The food bank. I'll bet you not a lot of people give chocolate to the food banks. And how nice would that be, right? Especially if somebody's coming off a tough last quarter themselves. Little kids. Oh, that'd be awesome. And you're going to feel good about it too, especially when you're not the one eating it. And I know you want to keep it. I did too. Make somebody else happy. Stick to what you're doing. Keep winning. Navigating the holidays when you're losing weight is extremely challenging. Make it as easy on yourself as you can. One little way that you can do that is to give the food gifts away. Okay, so I think I got sidetracked there probably about 3 times, but at least one of them is definitely on theme. A huge part of setting yourself up for success is the other side of making sure that you've got good choices to lean on and you've done the heavy lifting, right? Like pre-chopping the veg, because there isn't a snowball's chance in hell that you're going to want to do that when you get home from your mother-in-law's. And you've already thought out the soup. The other side of those choices is things like choosing a way to give away the food gifts. You can't eat what isn't in the house, and you're going to forget about it. If it's in the house, you're not going to be able to stop thinking about it. If you've given it away, there's no point thinking about it because there's nothing that you can do. Start by rewrapping it. Write what it is on a tag that you can just pop off later. If you don't wrap it, it is so much easier to talk yourself into just peeling off the cellophane. Just a couple, right? You did have a couple. You had the ones that were in the bowl at the party or at the dentist's. Also, this isn't your first rodeo. You've had all the yummy holiday foods before. They're going to be back next year. There will be lots more chances. Making better choices this year will lead to more years to make better choices. Next up is a way to help you make those better choices. Low calorie swaps. Save the calories where you can. I know it can feel like an in for a penny, in for a pound scenario all the time at the holidays. I really do get that. Oh, what's the point of using Greek yogurt instead of sour cream to save 70 or 100 calories when you're in a sea of calorie dense choices and you're probably going to go over and blow your day anyway? I really do get it, but it does matter. All the calories count. Each one of those little red foil wrapped chocolates is 80 calories. 6 of them is your daily calorie deficit. All the calories count. How many do you want to go over? Buy. 8 chocolates a day is all it takes to gain a pound during the week between Christmas and New Year. And I have to tell you that when I was fat, only gaining a pound that week would have been a massive victory for me. The holidays were my ultimate permission slip. It's even better than my birthday, right? That was just the day and then the weekend eating. The holidays are weeks of eating, so much eating. Find ways to swap where you can. Go for the lower calorie choice. What you save in one area, you can use somewhere else. This is the kind of thing I do a lot more on my social media. It's hard because so many of you listen to the podcast and don't actually watch it on my YouTube. So you can't see what I'm doing, but I love doing low cal recipes and breakdowns. And a lot of the time my recipes are about making lower calorie swaps. Finding ways to modify a recipe so that you hold on to the flavor and the experience of it while hacking away some of the calories. That's one of my favorite things to do. I'm working on a way to show you guys how I do that. Something that you may or may not need to keep in mind is tip number 7. Remember, alcohol has calories. So I wanted to make sure to talk about this one in the first of these holiday episodes because I get questions about alcohol all the time, not just around the holidays. This is a very big topic, and booze can sink your progress in a hurry. You'd be surprised how many people think there are low-calorie alcohols. There aren't really. They're all about the same. I mean, the creamy liqueurs are more, but your standard liquors are all about the same. The bigger issue is usually the mix. like I said, the booze is all about the same, right? An ounce of rum, vodka, whiskey, gin, tequila, they're all about 65 calories. Bailey's is 107 calories an ounce. 12 ounces of beer is about 160 calories. A 5-ounce glass of wine, it's about 130. So they're all manageable depending on how much you want to drink. And if you're drinking liquor, watch your mix. A rum and coke can be 65 calories, or it can be a couple hundred or more. I think you're better off experimenting with some of the zero versions of pop, because there are tons of those. I just saw there's going to be a zero Shirley Temple 7 Up. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get it up here, but it sounds amazing. I think it would be an excellent, excellent mix, especially around the holidays. Zero ginger ale, zero root beer. Like, there are a ton of choices. And with all of the 0-calorie syrups for coffees and desserts and stuff, you could make some amazing cocktails. I'm also sure that there are some fantastic YouTube channels or Instagram accounts that are devoted just to making them, right? Um, Here's the thing: I can't drink. It's the pancreas, and it's the secondary diabetes. Technically, I've been cleared to drink. One of the doctors who most directly saved my life, like with his hands, doing a procedure that required a crazy amount of skill, um, in a technique that he helped pioneer. And he's the one who took over my care basically since I've been home. Like, when I got sick in 2022, I was transferred to his hospital. But way before that, somewhere around 2018, I think, he said that if I wanted to, I could have the occasional glass of wine with dinner. So I tried that. And after less than a cup, like 250 milliliters, not some random cup out of my cupboard, an actual cup, I felt as drunk as I have ever felt in my entire life. Like, it's 3 o'clock in the morning and I've been drinking since 7 the night before, and I've got the spins and I'm on the bathroom floor like that after a glass of wine. So I do take requests to hack recipes, and I do drinks sometimes too, but I can't do alcoholic ones. So I'm out. But I know 100% for sure that there are people out there who specialize in this. There is somebody out there who specializes in every type of recipe that you can think of. So there's somebody out there who specializes in this too. And I wasn't always like this. I had my entire pancreas until I was 37. So I had about 20 years of experimenting with alcohol and drinking it casually. I drank while I was losing weight the first time. But here's something that I remember: booze did not lead to good food choices. So when you're factoring in your alcohol during the last quarter, make sure to factor in all the extra eating that your lack of inhibition is going to lead to too. Our eighth tip today is kind of an extension of an earlier one, but they need to be looked at separately, which is also why I've divided them up so much. And we're going to be talking about this issue next week in another, again, slightly different way. Know that you're going to be happy triggered too. Triggers aren't just negative. Happy feelings are triggers too. We talked about Uncle Morty and his shitty comments, but what about those magical holiday moments? Those shiny, happy feelings that come, they come along with a perfectly thoughtful gift where your heart is just singing and you're all caught up in the nostalgia and the joy. It can be super hard to stay mindful about your eating in those moments too, and the afterglow from it all. You're feeling good and you want to keep feeling good. Food feels good, and you haven't given away all that chocolate yet. You can do this. Think about how much happier you're going to feel next year when you're at or that much closer to your goal weight and you didn't have to undo any damage from this holiday season. It's going to feel amazing to walk into January without an extra 10 pounds to drop, to know that you're still on track. What do you want more? Ask yourself again and again, what do I want more? The food in this moment, or how good I'm going to feel later? And I know delayed gratification is super hard, but you've got to get back on that scale at some point. And what do you want that moment to look like? You know the cycle. You know the feelings that race through your mind when you're looking down at the 3 numbers between your toes. I know you want that extra helping of stuffing and gravy right now. But what do you want that moment to look like later? Because that moment is happening right now. You might as well be stepping on the scale, because it's entirely determined by the in the moment food choices. And you can hide from that. Oh, and I can feel it. I can feel the Gladys hackles rising, and I'm getting to you. But you can hide from the reality of it. But getting on the scale isn't a moment isolated in time. It's built by all these tiny little choices that happen days and days before. So you can get as torqued about this one as you want to, Gladys. But I don't think you heard what I actually said. I said extra stuffing and gravy. I never said that you can't have any. If you've been listening to me at all, you'll know that I'm all for having the stuffing. When you're looking for self-control, ask yourself, what do you want more? I know this is a crazy happy time of year, and I'm not here to rain on anybody's parade. I'm here because I want the happy to continue. I'm here for the long-term happy. And that's why we're finishing up today with number 9. Acknowledge the impact of CRC. Comfort, reward, cope doesn't go away because the holidays are coming. If anything, they all become seriously amplified. Our desire for each one goes up a lot. 3A way. Awareness, acknowledgement, accountability. You can't change what you can't see. Burying your head in the sand isn't going to help you get through the holidays. I mean, it will in one way, right? But not in so many others. And I think we've very clearly established what it can cost if your holiday eating season gets out of control. Look for it. When you're reaching for food or thinking about going to get some or debating whether or not to finish what you've already got in front of you, ask yourself what's going on. What are you doing? Think about what you're thinking about. And I know how that sounds, but I mean it. What are you telling yourself? Step 2 is acknowledgement. It's really easy to see it and then just push it out of your mind. Nope. That is not what we're after here. Say it out loud. Words have power. Say it. I'm heading into the kitchen to grab that box of chocolates because I can't stop thinking about it. Because I'm sad that I have to face another Christmas without my dad. Because my shitty co-chair at the pageant took all the credit. Because my brother-in-law sat at the table making cracks about everything I put on my plate. There are a million potential reasons. What's yours? Acknowledge it. Accountability is the doing part. What are you going to do now? You know you're only headed into the kitchen to unwrap those chocolates because you're coping with the comments, or you're rewarding your hard work at the pageant, or you're comforting the grief. So what now? It's choice time, and you need to face it. What do you want more? The chocolate now to deal with the feelings, or the feelings you'll have later if you don't? You have to pay the comfort, reward, cope piper at some point. When do you want to pay it? Why not acknowledge that it's happening so you can pay as you go instead of ending up with sticker shock later? Comfort, reward, cope is part of the eating experience for everybody. When your relationship with food is skewed, it's an even bigger part of that experience. Since emotions are amplified during the last quarter, it makes sense that comfort, reward, and cope are going to be coming along for the ride. Just remember that you're the one driving the car. Next week, I'm back with 9 more ways to get through the holidays. We've still got a fair bit of ground to cover. We've got a lot of ground to cover. So make sure that you head back for that. I would also be very grateful if you could subscribe. You'll always know when I've got new episodes up, and it really does help me to keep doing what I'm doing. If you're looking for more content or recipe ideas, you can check out my playlists on my YouTube channel or snag a copy of my cookbook through the link in the notes. It's never too late to grab a copy of my free guide to getting started for the last time, or the webinar replay with the worksheets, and they're all free too. If you're ready to deal with your weight once and for all, you might be a good fit for the program. 53 weeks to change your relationship with food, get the weight off, and learn how to keep it off. You can find out more on my website, disruptingobesity.com, or you can always reach out to me directly. I'm always happy to answer and get any of your questions. Have an amazing week. Keep trying, keep tracking. Don't be intimidated and don't give up. You've totally got this. Thank you for listening to Disrupting Obesity with Charlotte Skanes. If you know it's time to take back control, lose the weight, and keep it off, reach out to me privately with a direct message on Instagram that says ready, so you can start disrupting obesity.